So I canceled my Xbox Live subscription yesterday.
Is that something you pay for?
Yeah, it's $60 a year, I believe, and I can't justify it anymore.
Right.
I don't play. I play with 3 or 4 other people, and I play maybe 2 or 3 games, but I know I'm going to lose contact with those people now. But I can't justify. It's not worth the $60 just because we play video games once every week or 2 or 3 sometimes. And with the new systems, if you buy a game, it's basically you're vowing to always play online. There's very little single player anymore, and just sitting with your buddy, that doesn't happen as much anymore. You're most likely going to be playing over the internet, and I don't like playing with strangers over the internet. So it just turned into something I don't like, and it's really different from whenever I was a kid. I used to go over to my neighbor's house all the time, and he had a Nintendo 64. Was whenever we started really playing a lot. And I wouldn't even always play all the time. I sometimes like to watch, and I like storytelling. I enjoy the video games that it was like watching a television show. Now it's not like that anymore. It's all competitive group play. You know, we're all playing each other, or you have to be online, and it seems like it's just a subscription thing. And I think I'm growing out of it, and it kind of stinks that I'm going to lose some of my friends over it. Not lose them, but yeah, I'm going to lose touch with them.
These are people that are long distance to begin with.
Yeah, I've met these people. These aren't like online friends that I've never met before. There's nothing wrong with that, but these are people that I worked with or I knew. And being in the military, you know, you move all around.
Yeah.
I specifically remember playing 3 or 4 games with this one guy he's now in Germany. I'm not going to see him ever, but I can't just say, well, I'll play the game once every month just so I can talk to you real quick. It seems like not a real effective friendship anyway.
Are these people not avid Facebook users?
They do, but that's like friendship at a very minimal level as it is, because that is comments or maybe some conversation here and there through the messenger, but it's not like conversation like you would have whenever you're playing, like what you and I have when we sit here and we talk. Like, that's a conversation, and we relax and we kind of focus on each other. And on video games, that comes up even though you're focusing on the game.
When you play a game and you can chat with these people with some audio, you're maintaining your relationship too. You're not just talking about game-related things.
We are obviously like-minded individuals. We both enjoyed playing video games, so that was part of the relationship to begin with. So it was kind of exciting whenever you can still maintain a functional part of your relationship over long distances. I was a gamer as a kid, like I said, so I'm used to, I guess, bonding with other people through video games.
Yeah.
Whenever someone would move far away, that used to mean that was over. Well, now it definitely doesn't mean that, but I'm getting to a point to where I'm not playing video games as much, and those relationships are obviously changing. So it's kind of like I'm growing out of them, and now I'm growing out of a way of connecting with friends.
Well, I definitely noticed when I go online, I don't really go to chat rooms, but sometimes I like to go to like those places where you never know what you're going to see or what people are going to be talking about, and random topics come up. And I did notice that when I go into those rooms or open myself up to there's this site actually I use specifically called Omegle, and it's where you can ask a question.
All
so
right.
Sometimes I'll try out my Facebook post idea or my Twitter post idea, and I'll only put it on Omegle and see how people tear it apart first before I put it out there and see what my friends do to it.
Wow, you have a pre-filter for your Facebook.
I don't always do it, but if I'm bored, I might just see.
I mean, there is a difference though, because your family and friends might be like, that's funny, but
right.
It's not authentic. So I actually kind of, if you want to know that if your thought is actually funny, giving it to the internet, they're not going to be nice. So
and it's instant gratification. You don't have to wait and check the comments section over time, and then you just re-roll the dice and you get a brand new set of people.
I like it. Okay, I understand it a little better now. I like it.
When I go on there, I noticed that if I actually am honest that I'm in my 30s, they're going to hang up on me. Most of these people are kids. They're high school and early college age. That's about the spectrum there. So that makes it feel kind of weird.
I don't open up the conversations to anyone else besides just my friend base. So whenever I'm playing, I'm not hearing other people. And I assume that they are mostly children. The theory being that they're just so much better than me. They have the quick reflexes. That's what I'm going to blame it on. They have they have a lot more practice. And, obviously my life has changed a lot since my early 20s. I have a lot more responsibility. I can't wake up on a Sunday and be like, yeah, I'm going to play video games all day long. That also has a large influence on if you don't play as much, then you're just not going to play more often. You're not going to get good. You're going to get frustrated. What's the point of playing a game that you spent $60 on, and then all of a sudden you're spending $60 a year for the subscription, and the device was $500, and you have to update it every other day, it seems like. It's more of a hassle and a chore than it is actually fun, because I'm not even getting really good at it, because whenever I start playing it, an hour in it, my daughter needs something, or we're going to go do something, or I'm just exhausted.
You know what cracks me up right now is that even with all this technology, games are achieving the same emotion as they were in the 70s or 80s with Atari. Atari just had one button and a joystick, and you were frustrated, and you had to play it for hours to get good at it. Now there's the internet, and you can talk to your friends. There's, liquid, smooth graphics, and yet you're still frustrated, and you still got to play forever to get good at it, and it's the same emotion regardless.
It doesn't matter if you're moving a little pixelated stick or a highly rendered orc.
Yeah.
It's a degree of difficulty, and you do have to get better for the most part. The other issue is the pay-for-play situation where you can actually give real money to get fake weapons and to be better. That's plaguing a lot of games as well.
That doesn't even the playing field at all. How greedy. How pathetic. That is frustrating to even hear.
I think the gaming industry has scorned me, or at least has just rubbed me the wrong way long enough. And you know what? Maybe I'm not the guy they're looking for, though. Like, I know I'm not the guy they're looking for. They're not looking for the guy who might buy 3 games a year. The biggest money loss is whenever I'm paying for that subscription. I'm not buying a game every month, so I'm not their target. So who cares what I think? They don't care. They're not going to change for me. I was just enjoying it because I was still connecting with some friends.
Right. Okay. I see what you're saying. Now, most of these games were first-person shooter game type games?
Yeah, actually, the last 2 that I was seriously into were first-person shooters, and we also had a little third-person adventure RPG thrown in there. Yeah, I didn't get into the sports games. I played them a lot as a kid with my brother, and he was just very good at them, and that made them not fun for me. I didn't do the car racing. So, maybe my palate was a little small, but I would say I was a video gamer at one point, and over the past few years, that has really just gone downhill.
I never was. I never really had anything against them when I was young. Now I'm wondering if I'm, following in I want to say my parents' footsteps, but I would say my mom kind of ran the show. I was born in the mid-'80s. The 90s had these consoles getting really expensive. That's what happened. My mom kind of saw the writing on the wall, and look how they're gold digging now. Everyone who has an interest in it, they're trying to nickel and dime for every little thing. You have to have a subscription. You have to pay for if you want to get any good at the game, you actually have to pay for extra weapons just to be able to compete. It's almost like steroids in professional sports.
Yeah, I'm not going to say every game is like that, but the ones that are like that, there's just something in my brain that says you will not pay for a fake weapon. Yeah. It doesn't matter.
Right.
The part of my brain says you can play for hours and hours and hours to try to get it. That's fine, but do not drop any real money on this because you just paid. I said 60 earlier, but they're closer to 70. $70 for this game, and they're going to ask you, or they're going to tell you if you want something a little better. It doesn't matter how good you are, just give us a few more bucks and you can have it. No, that's unacceptable. Do you see your kids getting into some video games or getting into some some things that make you kind of nostalgic and kind of want to get back into them?
No, not particularly. My boys are so young that they're just in the watching phase. I don't play very much, but if I do play something, we have an old Wii, and so I'll throw in Mario Kart or one of those Mario Galaxy games.
Yeah.
And they get lost in that for a little while, but I have to limit it because I don't want my older son asking and asking. I would prefer it not become a lifestyle. I remember being young, and I think we did have an Atari. That was something that was mainly for weekends. Like, I couldn't just come home from school and pop on the video games and just play that until I got better at it. That was kind of something that was used as a tool for good behavior sort of thing. And it was an Atari, and my friends are having, like, Super Nintendos and stuff, you know?
Nope. Mom worked 2 jobs. I got to get babysat by the Super Nintendo.
Yeah, yeah, I see. I'm not saying that video games are definitely going to turn your brain to mush, but yeah. I do appreciate when my son gets home from kindergarten, we do his homework, we reinforce what he's learned at school. I can make sure if he's struggling, we can pick up the slack or not. And like, I feel if he came home from school knowing that video games was going to be a part of it, I would lose some of that focus. I'm glad that he's staying academic even after he gets home.
It seems like almost like a reward system, that the instant gratification of a video game you think is going to overshadow the real life benefit of actually being studious.
Well, I'll see him obsess. It will happen where we'll turn it off, and then either later or the next day he'll be obsessing about different characters in the game or a different situation. Mario Kart, for example, is a very chaotic, busy game.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trying to wimp out and say video games are bad or kids shouldn't play video games, but I just, when I see that, I get concerned, and I think I inherited that from my parents. That's should be a lower priority than some kids are giving it.
I understand.
Honestly, I got in not an argument, but I was kind of debating my friend. My friend's girlfriend has a kid, and that kid is, I think, 9 years old, and he plays Grand Theft Auto. And my friend said that, again, it was kind of like a reward thing. And he was trying to tell his girlfriend, like, this game's, I don't know if you've ever watched him play it, but it's pretty serious. Even though you're using it as a reward for doing good in school, maybe it's just a negative game all around. And then I was wondering, like, why should anyone play a game like that? Like, it's one thing to play Halo and, like, figure out how your buddies would band together and clear a room or something like that. But a game where you're specifically committing crimes, like, I couldn't figure out how to justify it. It's not that I don't know that it's fun. I just don't know, like, is there an appropriate age where I want to say, okay, boys, you're old enough to play this game with hookers and car theft, and I don't know if that day can possibly happen.
The simple answer is because there's a market for it, and a lot of these games started with some independent developer decided, I'm going to put out this really edgy thing, and it eventually just grew, and people were talking about it, and then some big development company says, okay, well, that's already kind of tested, let's put our money behind it.
I see.
I completely agree with you. And I played the Grand Theft Autos, and there's plenty of zombie games where I'm just bashing skulls in. But as a kid, I don't think that I had those available to me. I think the most edgy game that I played was GoldenEye, whenever you were going around and shooting your friends. Yeah. And
ooh, the screen drips red down. Ooh.
Yeah, or oh, you shot that person in the arm, and now that weird polygon shape that they're going to call a bicep is now tinted red. So
yes.
So that was pretty much the edgiest thing, and I guess I just kind of grew up in the console age to where as the games matured, I was maturing because I was the demographic at the time. So now that I'm 20-some years old, the games were far more edgier, but that's okay because I realize I can't go out and beat a hooker and get $125 out of it and drive away, and there'd be no consequences besides possibly, restart. My brain works like that because I'm older. I'm sure that when you're talking about your son obsessing about, Rainbow Road.
Exactly. Good call. That's what it is too.
Dude, everyone knows Rainbow Road. he's trying to fix a problem, or this was entertaining to him, so he's still thinking about it. His mind is actively engaged in it. If you put something so negative in that, I absolutely agree. It could have that effect. I'm not saying that video games make people do bad things, but I totally understand your point where, no, you're not going to let your 9-year-old play a game with guns and thieves and explosions that just highlight crime.
At least back in the day, and I'm not saying that it is better, but obviously it was pixelated, so it was more funny than real. They used to at least put, remember Wolfenstein? They used to put or Wolfenstein, is that what it is?
I believe so.
They used to put the Nazi sign everywhere, so you'd be like, yeah, I'm shooting people, but they're Nazis.
Yeah, they're not real people. They're bad people.
You kind of had the same feeling with GoldenEye. It was like, these are Russian commies, and they're kind of ugly, and we should be putting them in their place. But now, I mean, if it's literally a game to commit crimes, I've seen a couple of educational programs where they mention that acting out violence out of frustration, even if it's, harmless, like, let's say, trash in a room, it turns out it's more unlikely that you will curb your anger by acting it out than if you actually did just sit quietly and take deep breaths.
So what you're saying is, like, for therapy, going and punching a punching bag
actually makes you more aggressive.
Yeah, not the appropriate response, maybe going and doing some art of some sort.
Yeah.
Because your brain will associate, I'm angry, I am going to do something physical, because that's how I relieve stress, as opposed to I'm going to do something peaceful and serene in my mind.
It becomes a reward system feedback loop.
Yes, feedback loop.
So a lot of people will justify playing a violent game and say, well, this, is my outlet or something like that. And, I just kind of shake my head and go, that's not how it works.
For a family television show, or to get a rating to where it's okay for the kiddos, if you have to simulate blood, it couldn't be red.
Okay.
I remember this predominantly on Mythbusters, because I remember them saying constantly, to be family friendly, we are going to use blue blood. So that goes to say, whenever you were talking about the quality of the games is increasing, maybe it is triggering a little more a part of the brain that wasn't activated for me as a kid. I knew the concept was it was blood, but it didn't look like blood. Even,
I want to say it was the early 90s when Mortal Kombat came out, and one of the moves was that the guy could rip your spine out.
Ah, yes, Sub-Zero.
That used to get a frenzy going in the living room when somebody's spine got ripped out. It might as well have been real, because that was as real as it had to be for us. Everyone's imagination went right there that your spine was getting ripped out.
But there's a difference between, oh, look what we can do. This game is so awesome and edgy. He just ripped out your spine. Versus if these people would have seen what a real spine, I'm not saying like a violently ripped out spine, because I don't even know how I would act with that. If they would have seen what a real spine looked like, they may have been sick to their stomach. Where the games now, they're trying to, I mean, the new Mortal Kombat, they have these what's called X-ray moves. And basically it's the camera zooms in and shows you the bones breaking. And
I see.
It is awesome, but super brutal. And
yeah.
I would not, like, if I was playing that game and there was a kid in the room, I would feel so responsible, and just, I would immediately shut it off.
Wow. Instead of it being like an action video game, it's like a horror video game.
That's a really fair assumption. It's almost like an anatomy video game, the way they go into detail with these things.
Dissection.
Yes. Very, very gross.
Well, I never did get into video games, but I did think for years that I was going to be a collector of media. As a child, you would go over to maybe your friend's house. I think one of my uncles, I don't remember specifically, and they might have a wall of shelving for their VHSs or for their albums. And I definitely thought that was going to be me someday. I'm going to build something. I'm going to dedicate a room I'm going to have hundreds of movies, or based on the time that we were born. I felt very fortunate in the 90s that I didn't get sucked into cassette tapes. I think by the time I had my own money to spend, I already had maybe 10 tapes. So I was ready to make the CD switch, thinking that this would be
you weren't losing much.
A lifetime of music. And then, lo and behold, another 10 years goes by and nobody's collecting CDs either. So I would say my CD collection got the largest out of everything. I didn't really have enough income to get a big DVD collection. I think I have about 30 DVDs, which some people might consider big, but not. The direction that I was headed was, like I said, a wall of media. So I'm surprised, or I became surprised after 10 years went by and I realized that the world isn't going to be like that, and that's not going to be my life.
I love how now you can take all of your CDs, all your cassettes, and all your DVDs and put them on a thumb drive that could get lost in your pocket if you have too many things in there. Like that's your wall, right. Your wall of media now.
I mean, holding my Walkman, my tape player Walkman, in my hand as a kid, it made me feel powerful. Like, look, I made a mixtape, and this has 20 of my favorite songs, and they're in my pocket. And I felt really good about that.
Yeah.
And now I can have every song in the world in my pocket, even if I didn't download it. Every song in the world is basically in my pocket.
Well, the strange thing about the collecting is that it is no longer... There's no form of it that is as popular as it is just streaming music. So streaming services are overtaking actual purchasing and owning of media.
That's right. I probably one of the last people that I know that still like backs up their MP3s and adds to their MP3 collection. Nobody's doing that anymore.
You have a desktop full of MP3s because you just have the individual files just to scratch that childhood itch that you had.
Yeah, I'm thinking like, I don't know, what if the internet goes down for a month? I'll still be set with my music. I don't know what I'm thinking.
That would be such a tragedy now. Oh my God.
Some people save water. Some people, keep rice downstairs. I just make sure I got all my MP3s. I got one in the bank vault.
I have a confession to make. We were talking about like the losing friends, and we started this recording, I guess, hobby a few months back. It wasn't too long when you're like, we should, I should come up and see you. We should schedule something. And I was thinking, yeah, if I ever head out to your way, maybe we can meet somewhere. That'd be fine. And then you said, hey, I'm going to stop up and visit. Is that okay? I go, yeah, sure. Anytime you want to, that's fine. Okay. And then you said, okay, on this date, I'm going to visit you. All of a sudden, for some reason, I was like, oh my God, this is actually happening. Like, not like, oh my God, Paul's going to be here. I'm so excited. It was more along the lines of, I got to get the house ready. Like, this is, he's actually following through with it. I get so used to people saying, oh, we'll stay in touch or we'll do this, and they never follow through. So I was excited whenever you came, but it was almost sad to me where I was assuming that, oh yeah, he's just going to say that and it never happens. So maybe you are old fashioned, Paul. Maybe you in your CD carrying case, walking down the street, stopping by, buying a newspaper or calling someone from a payphone and actually visiting people whenever you say you're going to. That to me, that's just charming anymore.
I really meant it because I felt a kinship with you on Facebook, and we bring up Facebook almost every time we talk, but most people don't use Facebook the way that we do. And that frustrates me. Like, even when you put a post out there that I think is very clever, you get maybe, 10, 12 likes on it. And I'm like, that's ridiculous. This thing should have been shared 1,000 times. But most people just aren't using it to like get ideas out there or get a chuckle out there or take a quick poll. What's your opinion on this? What should I have done differently? Or, what do you think of this situation? I think that that's my favorite thing about having a forum of people that you kind of know. It doesn't really matter if you know them well. It just matters that they can weigh in, and they should feel free to. I think a lot of people are thrown off when I haven't talked to them in years, and then I might just make a comment on something they said. And I'm not afraid to do that. Like, I think, like, well, we're friends, like, in a way that you don't mind me seeing this, so I don't mind also giving my input.
The Facebook is a fantastic tool for keeping in touch, but it doesn't let you really keep in touch. It keeps everybody at a distance.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can really show what you want to show. You can see what you want to see. And that's not like fostering relationships. And I think that's one of the things with the video games that I always enjoy, because not only did I know these people that I was playing the particular video games with, but there was a live action element of, somebody's always going to goof up, or somebody's always going to, really come through for the team, or someone's going to do something stupid. And it wasn't edited. It wasn't thought about. It was just, this is humans being humans. And you get like a weird kind of relaxation or like a closeness with those, because you know that that's them like authentically. Even though we're battling on an ice planet, their personality, what they're saying is going to come through as natural. We're going to make fun of the guy. We're all going to pick on him. We're all going to bust his balls and stuff like that. But we were actually being real. And this is the stuff that's come into our head. Clever guys were clever. Slow guys were slow. Everything was real, and I don't think that we get that as often anymore.
It's the end of an era for you. A part of you is about to die.
It is. I don't want to like sit there and relive the glory days of Zelda Ocarina of Time, because that's even more pathetic than the guy who's sitting there talking about high school football. It's like, I remember back in the days when I was alone in my room, but I was really good at a video game that never really helped me. But it did. It did help me, because it helped me form relationships that I actually maintained. But now I'm walking away, and I am a little heartbroken on it. I'm not going to say I'm walking away forever. I have a daughter, so who knows what she'll be into whenever she gets older. I might end up picking them up again. But
yeah, I would say I've had a similar thing happen to me with the talk radio, where you listen to some personalities for a good amount of time. You feel like you know them, and then now I don't have time to listen every day. If I listen a couple times a month, that's a good month. I don't have time to just sit and listen to, especially if it's vulgar. I have XM satellite radio, and some of the shows on there have cursing and stuff. I gotta turn that off now. But there is a part of me that goes, that's okay. When you go back to work, let's say, if you have one of those jobs where you can isolate yourself, you can download them. Somebody will put them up for download, and you could listen to them at another. And I'm like, am I really going to do that though? Am I really going to want to hear 2015 news in 2020 in some hypothetical future situation? No, I'm not going to ever relive. It's over, and I just have to let it die. But there's just like a part of me that wonders, like, oh, but maybe I can get back into it.
I have seen it said that the 30s are the least happy time in a life. And I can completely understand that. At 30s, you are either established or establishing, but you're still paying on everything. You're raising children, and you're getting rid of that identity that you thought you grew in the 20s. That defining decade of the 20s, you spent 10 years doing something, and all of a sudden responsibility kind of forces you to act a certain way. But then it goes up. It goes up. People start getting happier as they're 40, 50, 60 years old. It actually trends up for the majority of a healthy life.
I didn't hear that before. I see what you're saying, but there's also the health aspect, where don't wallow in your losing your identity too much when you're 30. Enjoy still having a intact body and mind.
I have a job that pays the bills. I have a mortgage. I have 2 car payments, and I have a 1-year-old running around just destroying everything that I have purchased. It's awesome, and it's also not what I thought I was doing in my 20s.
Yeah.
This is not a news story. This isn't like a philosophy that we're breaking in. It's like things change when you get older, but it's whenever the little things start dying, you start kind of realizing, oh, selling that sports car for the minivan, that's a big one. But I think there's better things ahead.
Well, yeah, this podcast will satisfy that. And the more I think about it, I don't think it's sour grapes. I actually enjoy this more than I think I would have enjoyed a radio career. If we were working for a radio station, we'd have ratings to worry about. We'd have advertisers to worry about. We'd have sales to worry about. We'd have all this corporate mumbo jumbo.
Yep.
And I kind of like the idea that we can choose our direction, we can choose our topics, and we don't have to worry about whether anyone likes it or not, or whether the advertisers are going to go along with it or not. I think as much as a young 20-year-old, I kind of felt like I dropped the ball and didn't get involved in the media the way that I would have liked to. I never knew that I would be able to make recordings of this quality in my own home. And now that I can, I think that should have been my goal all along. And I almost wish I started on it sooner.
So you're saying that this is a better situation than the wall of media? Instead of collecting all this other type of media, you're actually making a form of it?
But I collected it in my brain, and I picked my favorite things and I tuned out the things that didn't interest me as much. And I'd like to think I'm the culmination of what I found interesting all that time when I was in my 20s. Even though I thought I was headed in a different direction, I think that ultimately I found a good place.
Sounds good to me. But I don't want to make it sound like I'm giving up everything. Like Halloween's only a few months away and I'm already starting to look at stuff. So, I mean, I'm still a kid. I'm still a kid when it comes to a lot of different things. But I guess if I had to put that old dog down, I had to put down the video games before anything else. You can take Halloween from my cold, dead fingers. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll always remember that. In fact, I never think to send anyone a message or a text or anything on Halloween. Like, that's just kind of a personal holiday. But I'm gonna wish you one. I'm gonna be like, hey, Halloween's coming 2 weeks, bud.
I love it because the amount of stress. Like I'm like the Clark Griswold of Halloween.
Okay.
Where I'm trying to go all out. But the best part is I'm not trying to compete with my neighbors because my neighbors put out like 2 or 3 styrofoam gravestones. And I'm like building a castle. So it's not fair. I guess I'm not losing my childhood. I'm not losing my happiness. Things got to change.
Another thing that I thought applies to this conversation was...
Good, because I was just dying.
Yeah, I did. I had another thing, and this might spark more with you too. As a young boy, like really young, like 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, I collected baseball cards because my grandfather had told me, "Oh, what a shame. When I was a kid, we had baseball cards, me and my brothers, and we didn't know that they'd ever be worth anything. So we used to put them in the bicycle spokes, and we used to flip them and step on them and lose them." So he says, "But, I'm giving you some wisdom here, and you can collect these baseball cards and take care of them and save them, and some of them will be worth something someday." And I was like, wow, like money in the bank. And I kept all of them pristine. I bought binders, I bought sheets, I organized them. So now I find out, pretty much everybody's father and grandfather told them that for the past 30 years. So everybody's got dusty baseball cards sitting somewhere hoping that and now the value is basically lost. The last time I checked was maybe about 5 or 6 years ago. I had some Nolan Ryans. I think I had a Ken Griffey before he was famous. And yeah, none of them are worth more than like $7 or $8 at the most. And most of them are worth nothing.
I have one Barry Bonds that I thought was going to be, that won't have to work. I have this Barry Bonds card. I think it's like double what we paid for it at this point.
You bought a pack knowing that there would be a Barry Bonds in there, or you just found one?
No, we bought the individual rookie card. And now this was whenever he was a Pittsburgh Pirate, so this was way before all the home run stuff. Now, I'm not a baseball guy, so I didn't collect cards, but I was told from my brother, this one is the important one. We even got one of those little plastic cases that you screw that pinches the card and keeps it pristine. And I still have it, but I think like we bought it for like $5, and I think it was worth like 15 last I looked.
Okay. Wow, what a turnaround.
I know. Can't wait to give the boss the middle finger on Monday, buddy.
Mine are in the attic, and I'm debating, in my parents' attic, I should say. My baseball cards are dusty in my parents' attic right now, and they're not complaining about it, but I'm to the point where I don't know if I want to sift through them at all, ever.
Now, do you think that your grandfather, ruined the baseball card experience for you? Because basically he said, "Oh, don't play with those." We had a lot of fun when we were kids, but you shouldn't play with those because maybe you can just collect them.
Maybe it was the spawn of Perfectionist Paul.
Maybe.
Maybe that's where it all began.
This is why you do the editing, I guess.
That's how I became who I am, from that wisdom. It wasn't popular to play with baseball cards physically, like, in a game way. By the time I was old enough to, know stats and add and play that game, because that was the real game, right? Almost like a Pokemon card where you say this guy has a better batting average, this guy has a better RBI or whatever, so I win the card, right? Is that how you would compete with them?
I have no idea.
I think that was the original thing, was everybody has cards, and then you would lay out a card.
You serious?
Two guys would lay out a card, and whoever had the better stats would keep the card or something.
I have never heard of this, but that sounds way more. I just thought it was a collectible thing.
I think it was meant to be a game. I mean, and also it gave the Major League Baseball publicity or whatever, it helped market their product.
People can use them as a competition, but the competition is who has the better cards. So it can kind of be a game. It doesn't seem like it's a game where there were like official rules of if I beat you, I get your cards or anything like that. But
okay,
they were trading cards, and the tradition comes from cigarette packs. Cigarette packs used to have promotional cards, and kids would ask adults for their cigarette promotional cards, and I guess they would trade among to see who could collect the most. And baseball was like, all right, we're going to do that. So that's why they were called trading cards. That's another word.
So the heaviest smoking parents had the luckiest baseball card collecting
Those
kids.
kids were so lucky to grow up in a house filled with ash and smoke because they were popular at school with their yellow stained clothing.
and their emphysema-ridden parents.
Dad can't walk 10 feet without being out of breath, but I have the best cards ever.
But I have a Mickey Mantle rookie, so
yeah, that's that's a hobby. Like the collecting thing just makes me I think of clutter. So like I was never a collector. I have one binder of baseball cards. I have one small case of Matchbox cards.
Okay.
But collecting never appealed to me.
Even before you joined the military?
Yeah.
I think I was meant to be a hoarder, and the military squeezed it out of me.
Yeah.
Having to move so many times has made me let things go to the point where I don't want to ever have to let anything go again, so I never get attached.
Well, I found a tote the other day that I was like, why do I even have this tote? And I got the motivation to open it up and clear it out. And you could tell it was one of those totes that during the military was, oh, I don't want to throw this away because there's sentimental value or whatever to it, so I'm just going to pack it in this tote. And then you take it to your next place and you open it up and you're like, okay, I'll just store this for now. And then when you do your next move, you're like, what is this tote? And you look in there and it's like, oh, that's where I keep my sentimental stuff. Okay. Without digging through to see if they even still had any meaning.
Yeah.
So I opened up this tote and I threw away like 90% of it. Sentimental meaning meant nothing to me anymore, I guess. I've just been squeezed out of me as well. And I think, boy, these things, I just carried them a lot. Like that's what they were to me. Things I had to carry every time I moved.
Well, I half expected, and foolishly so, my wife has been very supportive of, us doing this project together. And she's very aware of your love for Star Wars. So whenever she sees some kind of gimmicky Star Warsy thing, she's like, oh, maybe Z would like this. Oh, show this to Z. Oh, I wonder if he has this or wonder if he would like this. And when I went to your house, you wouldn't know that you liked Star Wars by walking around your home, really. It's not like that apparent, but for some reason everybody associates you, well, not for some reason, because you post a couple Star Wars related things or because you're anticipating the next movie coming out, everybody thinks you must also like the junk.
So anytime like there's a post that was Star Wars related on Facebook, I will get it sent to me 5 or 6 times. And I appreciate it because it's like, oh, people are trying to be friendly and everything like that, but you don't know how many times somebody has seen something.
I think I'm guilty of it at least 2 or 3 times before I came to visit you. Now that I know you, I don't think we could work professionally together just typing back and forth and then making recordings. Like, I think, seeing how each other live, meeting each other's family, I think that makes a difference in how we can relate to each other on these recordings.
Yeah, I mean, the unedited thing, us having a conversation is a step in the right direction. But for you to, whenever you visited and to go back, it was a great visit. I had a lot of fun. But you and I were together the whole time. There was no acting. There was nothing like you would do on Facebook, or like if you're just meeting someone for a quick coffee, oh, my life is great. This is good. You saw my daughter just ripping and tearing. You saw her, being herself. Mm-hmm. You saw my wife and I interacting. There was no acting there.
Yeah, we had to wait our turns to use the bathroom.
Yeah, we were real people in real situations. So you feel more comfortable with something like that. And if you're going to do a podcast or something where you have to emotionally connect with another person one way or another, at least intellectually connect, you need that interaction.
Do you have any childhood toys that you have or want to pass down?
No.
Okay.
And I'm so glad that I don't, because my wife does. I am currently surrounded by heaps of Eeyore stuffed animals. Heaps of Eeyores.
She had a Eeyore thing back in the 80s.
Everyone's favorite maladjusted, depressed donkey. She has so many Eeyores that we actually threw away half of her Eeyores. Like there was a couple, I would say, non-Disney sanctioned Eeyores in there. Like she also has like Care Bear, like 25th edition Care Bears with Scorsese glass eyes or something like that. So my wife has the passing down thing on lockdown. My daughter got my last name, and she's going to end up getting rid of that probably in the future. So that's all that she's getting from me, as far as take this and get rid of it when you can.
Legally safe Eeyore knockoff was the word you're looking for.
That's true.
So had she had a son, she wouldn't have had this benefit.
No, I don't think that boy wouldn't have had a chance. He was getting the stuffed animals thrown at him.
He was okay.
She loves stuffed animals. There's a few that she said, no, I'm not giving this to Annalise. This one's mine. Like
this one's too nice,
and that's perfectly fine. Whatever makes you happy makes you happy. But she wanted to share this connection of her love with her child. So whether it was a boy or girl, I don't think it would have mattered. I hope it does work out. Okay. But no, your kid's going to grow up to be completely nothing like you, and then think all your worldviews are stupid. So that's what we're aiming for. I passed my cynicism on to her as well, I believe.
That's the best gift you can give.
You're welcome. Everything is depressing.
Everything is meh. That's what cynicism is.
That's true. There are no highs, there are no lows. We're just here in the middle, and we all have to be with each other.